Hello guys, how's it going? My name is Dara, and in today's video I just want to open up an interesting discussion with you guys. There's going to be a lot of varied opinions on the topic, but I just want to talk to you guys a little bit about demon hunters. I think it's about time we took a look at them because I saw that there were going to be nerfs to demon hunters, and it seemed like a portion of the nerfs, which is the portion I was really I guess excited about, got tracked back. What they did overall for demon hunters so far for PvP is they toned down the artifact weapon by a little bit, but like 33% damage, if not 30. But what they did recently is they toned the damage for PvE down, but they raised it slightly for PvP, so then PvP changes didn't change. So basically what they did is the ability still deals less damage against PvP players, but now it also bleeds over into the PvE aspect of the game. That's basically what they did to normalize the ability. There was recently going to be a nerf to Bloodlet, a nerf to the Glaive Toss, and how it all functions together, but it seems like Blizzard just like crossed that out completely. And demon hunters, I would say, are probably one of the strongest, let alone one of the easiest classes to play in the game. Basically what I'm trying to say is they are OP. Now when you are talking about a class being OP, on one hand you can talk about every single class being OP and kind of throw the word around and nobody takes you seriously. But when I am talking about someone being overpowered, I do want to conduct myself in a manner where I might even have you guys agree with me, or maybe even have a counter argument to what I'm trying to say. I'm completely open to discussions. I'm not making this video just like, oh, demon hunters OP and get everybody riled up and angry about demon hunters, and just like everybody gets like pitchforks and torches and just goes out and like, we want demon hunters nerfed in front of like the Blizzard office. I'm really just trying to open up a discussion on demon hunters and some of my thoughts why I think they are probably one of the strongest, let alone easier classes to play, hence making them kind of overpowered, because there's like not as much of like, let's say, skill involved, let alone I am talking about rogues, I guess. So who am I to talk about skill here, since rogues are the easiest class to play now, Dalaran, is super obvious. But I did want to talk a little bit about demon hunters and what I think makes them super strong, super easy, and super overpowered for PvP. The first one is the crowd control. I want to talk a little bit about it. Currently in the meta as a melee, you don't need too much of crowd control. For the most part, if a class can blow someone up in a couple of stuns, then you're good to go. As a rogue, you can blow people up in a couple of stuns. As a warrior, if you get a second stun from a friendly, you can blow people up. As a windwalker, you can blow up people in a couple of stuns. And as a demon hunter, you can do the same. But the way that your stuns come from is just super convenient compared to every other class. For a rogue, you have to use resources and combo points in order to line it up and have cooldowns available. For a warrior, you have to have cooldowns available, and you have a 4-second stun whether you do an AoE stun or a Stormbolt, but you do require some other class to come in and help you finish off, unless you get a bunch of damage buffs where you can blow someone up in a single stun. And even a Woodwalker, as they are going to be losing their Fist of Fury stun in the future, those guys not having the extra second stun is going to hamper down on the burst, because that second stun is kind of needed to lock down the target as well as deal damage on top of it. And when it comes to demon hunters, one, you have an AoE stun that also deals significant damage. So already the only class that's competing with you in terms of damage and the stun is an outlaw rogue, but you also have it as an AoE, so it's like a 2-for-1 kind of deal. Yes, it is a stun every 1 minute, so I guess that is justifiable, but it is an AoE stun that deals damage 1. And the second stun, that's exactly the same duration, is tied into your burst. For most classes, you have to combine a bunch of different macros together, and I don't think a lot of classes are making a macro where you stun and pop their cooldowns at the same time. As a demon hunter, you are auto getting cooldowns. You get to jump in the air 40 yards to whoever you want to, so swap into an enemy makes it super easy. You get a stun with it, and bam, you got your burst available, you can get into your rotation. So for the most part, as a demon hunter, I feel like the way you got your stun set up, where it like gives you damage buffs for your main burst, as well as the stun, as well as the extra mobility you get during the stun phase while you're flying over to the enemy. How many other classes fly in the game? Maybe besides like a Feral Leap. But you do get this advantage where other classes, for the most part, don't. And I feel like they are in somewhat way, that part of the stun mechanic and the CC is just easier for demon hunters. I'm not trying to argue as much as it's more difficult. It is just that much more easy and that much more convenient. So in a single press of a button, presto, you have enough burst to literally one-shot somebody in a single stun, so you don't need like a double stun either. So the damage on top of it is something I am also going to talk about in the future. Number 2 on the list is the healing, and yes, I do understand there's so many other classes that can probably self-heal better as a hybrid compared to a demon hunter, but you have to hear me out. As a demon hunter, we are looking at a class that isn't a hybrid, so it isn't like a feral druid, enhancement shaman, or retribution paladin, or even a woundwalker monk. Even though they don't heal themselves for nearly as much, they don't have the ability to simply just cast a spell and get themselves to full health. That is understandable. So when we are looking at a demon hunter, we are going to consider the hybrids and how much healing they do, even the woundwalker monks, which is probably one of the least healy hybrids that can just like heal themselves up to full in a single few casts. But we are taking a look at demon hunters as something like rogues or warriors, the classes that don't really have a healing off spec that do need healing. Even death knights fall into the same category. Hell, we can take hunters and even casters. So the way the demon hunters heal themselves is by going offensive. Demon hunters don't really have a defensive playstyle. For the most part, if you are, let's say, wanting to play or willing to play defensively, in most cases you will use mobility in order to get away from a threat. If you are, on the other hand, trying to play offensive, you just go ham. And if you are trying to play defensive in terms of like popping cooldowns, you don't really have a variety of them. And for the most part, the best defense for Demon Hunter is offense, mainly because of the leech capability. Leech for the longest time has been a weird stat and hasn't really been seen that much play for PvP. But with Demon Hunters coming in, Leech is so much more of an important stat now, because as Demon Hunters go into Metamorphosis and they have more than one way of accessing it, depending on how you talent and trait yourself, you do have a substantial amount of healing. This healing is tied to your burst, and the burst can be also activated whenever you are low health, and that's one of the countermeasures the Demon Hunters have. Once you are low health, just pop your defensives, or pop your offensives rather, and then play this defensive strat. And that's basically how Demon Hunters heal, which for the most part I feel like is a little bit weird. When we are looking at hybrid classes, we even have Woundwalker monks who, if they kite, can heal themselves for substantial amounts when they cast Diffuse, but the Diffuse heals are not nearly as quick enough as the Demon Hunter Metamorphosis Leech. Now, Metamorphosis Leech is a little bit of a gray area, mainly because it's like, well, yeah, the only way they can heal is when they deal damage, so you can CC them, you can slow them, you can stop them. And I guess that applies the same thing for a rogue, or maybe even a warrior, or maybe even a feral, well, really any hybrid class. If you stun them and CC them and they have no outs, the healing that they can do for themselves is going to be limited. But most classes like ferals, for example, are tied to cooldowns of Swiftman and maybe even a bear form and renew heal. Then we have paladins who are maybe tied to being able to cast flash heals back to back to back, but it won't be anything instant, or maybe even pop a bubble to hold themselves off. And a warrior, like for example a fury warrior, has to have a target available in front of them, and they can only heal once every 4 seconds for 4% of their health, unless they pop a cooldown that only lasts 8 seconds. But they can heal themselves for about, I think, 20% of the 20% of their health. I'm pretty sure it's about 20 or 24, maybe even 40. I could be wrong. You would have to ask Pilgrim on that one. But it is, again, very limited, 8-second duration for a 2-minute cooldown, and it's just like, is it worth it in some cases? Let's say it's a BG and it's like, it's not even worth it. You might as well just die, res, come back, and you'll try it again. But what I'm trying to say is not a lot of classes in the game have healing as quick as a Demon Hunter. Demon Hunters heal themselves as quickly as they deal damage, and if you are bursting somebody with a Metamorphosis where you're dealing incredible amounts of damage and you are able to, and let's say you have dodge available to dodge certain spells, you have your blur also reduces all damage you take, so magical damage is being reduced, and you're dealing massive damage to an enemy, whether you're up in the air shooting fell bolts or you're up close and you're AoEing targets, as a lot of abilities just have this AoE component to them. A Demon Hunter, I feel like, can heal themselves up, given the proper situation, a lot quicker and a lot more effectively. Plus, the only playstyle you are given instead of playing defensives, you can either 1, run away, which is what rogues are pretty used to. Ferals are pretty used to it, just hiding away from the enemy. So 1, you can just get away from the enemy's damage. Or 2, hit him as hard as it can until you can't hit no more, which is the literal way of going about it. You would hit the enemy as hard as you can, get as much healing. If you drop, but if you don't, you live, and you can continue to fight another day. And that's like, I feel like it's just a little bit too easy for Demon Hunters in terms of their healing. It's not a lineup like some of the other classes are almost forced to play. And when I say forced, I don't mean like in a bad way, it's just like that's just how they are played. So this is one of the things that I think why Demon Hunters are a fairly easy OP class, simply because their healing is probably as fast as the damage, and for the most part, you can control just how hard you hit and how fast you're hitting. Now, I guess I got a few other things that I guess more minor. I already talked about the 2 big ones, but mobility of Demon Hunters, I would say, is probably pretty superb compared to some of the other classes. not only do you get a monk role, but it's a monk role that can be used as a damaging ability, so multi-use right there. You have a hunter disengage altogether. Your mastery increases how much speed you have. You don't get any slows as a class, but you still do get that extra bit of mobility. Every time you glide, your mobility is actually increased, as I've seen multiple demon hunters when I'm cutting them around the pillar in arenas. When they use glide ability, they're actually slightly bit faster during the glide portion, so they have it that much easier to catch up to someone else. So as a demon hunter, you have a lot more mobility, and a lot, I guess, ties into your mobility. Like, your mobility is also a damaging ability. A lot of monks will remember that mechanic, but for a lot of monks, having such a mechanic basically meant that, hey, you should probably use a chi torpedoes for damage rather than mobility, unless it's like a dire situation. As a demon hunter, it doesn't really matter, because your damage in most cases isn't tied to as part of your burst, or it won't be as affected. Then we have the Bloodlet bleed about, and what's that all about, the Bloodlet? So basically, when a demon hunter throws a glaive at you and it deals considerable damage, it did get slightly nerfed as of today. Instead of dealing 200% of glaive toss damage, now it'll deal 150% of the initial glaive damage. So the bleed is still pretty up there, and it did see a 50% nerf. But it was weird for demon hunters to have a bleed that's almost better than that of a feral. All you need to do is press a global cooldown, and a feral needs to invest energy and combo points. Like, what's that about, Blizzard? It almost sounded like eternal bleeding, which was a little bit too strong for combat rogues from back in the day. So I do agree that it's strong, just like how it was kind of dumb kind of damage, just easy type of damage that was tied into an ability, and I can totally relate as a previously played combat rogue. Another thing that demon hunters have fairly easy for their spec is the fact that they're cleaving with almost every ability. A lot of their abilities have this cleave mechanic tied in, but a lot of that cleave does not lose its single target pressure. I completely understand if a certain class is really good at, let's say, dealing cleave damage at certain moments or during certain cooldowns, or maybe if they build themselves specifically for it, like an arms warrior can build themselves so they can hit 2 targets once basically at all times, as far as I'm to understand. But not every class has just the ability, hey, here's all your full damage, and if you hit someone else on the side, it won't be reduced. So a demon hunter can literally take on 2 people at once, deal the same amount of damage without losing anything. So it's a spec that doesn't lose any resources or any damage, or literally doesn't lose anything whenever they are cleaving. So it feels a little bit overpowered to me, but that could just be a subjective thought. And then finally, I just want to finish off the video with this easy, quick one that everybody expected for me to talk about. I hate how demon hunters can see me in stealth. And that's really it. That's all I have for you guys, but those are just my thoughts on demon hunters a little bit. Again, I'm not trying to say, hey, let's nerf demon hunters, get pitchforks and torches. I'm just stating like some of the reasons why I think they're super strong. And what makes them OP is the fact that it's just a lot of conveniences for a class where they don't have to really give up anything in order to be able to perform as well as they do. And as a rogue, which is like you have management of resources and combo points and cooldowns all the time, it is a little bit sometimes disheartening seeing a class is just pushing massive damage in BGs, and here I am trying to top the charts, and I'm only just behind the demon hunter, and there's not a lot I can do about it. But yeah, I would love to hear from you guys when you respond to me. Let me know if you play a demon hunter or if you don't play a demon hunter. Just let me know what class you play, because I would love to hear what every single person of different classes, what they have to say about what I have to say. As always, if you guys enjoyed this video, please give it a like. I'd love to hear from you guys. And as always, have you guys a great day.